I'm Matt Hartsky with Backbone Unlimited. Today's episode is all about one of the most misunderstood and underrated skills in elk hunting, stalking. Now, if you've ever gotten close, but not close enough, blown a setup, or watched elk vanish without a sound, you're not alone. In this episode, I'm going to break down everything I've learned over 33 plus seasons chasing elk on public land, often solo, often with nothing to show for it but heartbreak, frustration, and experience. We'll cover how to spot and stalk worthy situations, how to close the gap, how to play the wind and terrain, and the mental game that many elk hunters flat out miss. Let's get into it. When we say stalk an elk, most new hunters picture a sneaky, sneak up and shoot moment, some ninja stuff through the timber. But here's the reality. Stalking elk isn't just about sneaking blindly through the woods. It's about reading the landscape, knowing when to move, when to wait, and how to play every variable to your advantage. In bow season, you're aiming to get within 30 to 50 yards of one of the most alert animals on the planet. That takes more than luck. It takes discipline, planning, and patience. Our key point is this. Stalking begins before you ever lay eyes on the elk. It's about positioning, wind, light, and timing. One of the hardest lessons I learned early on is knowing when not to stalk. You see an elk across a basin. Do you drop everything and go? Or do you observe, assess, and move with a plan? Too many blown opportunities come from getting too excited too fast. Here's a simple framework. Do stalk when elk are bedded with little movement. Your thermals are consistent. You have enough cover and terrain. You know their escape route. Those are the times when you're good to go, green light. Now, know when not to stalk. They're feeding and moving unpredictably. Midday thermals are shifting or you've got a swirling wind. There's no approach without being seen or winded. In other words, don't just react. Respond to the best current elk information that you have. This next tip may be the most important one in the whole episode, but I'm going to hammer it here. Wind is the number one factor in stalking elk, period. And that can be true of all animals, but I can tell you for certainty, it is true with elk. I don't care if you have the perfect setup, perfect range, the bull of a lifetime. If the wind swirls or shifts to your back towards the elk, it's game over. Here are a few actionable wind tips. Thermals drop in the morning and that cold air sinks. Thermals start to rise as soon as the sun starts to heat up those slopes. Okay, the warm air is going to rise. Midday, that's a big danger zone. A lot of times you've got shifting winds and unpredictable swirls. Make sure that you're using a puffer powder or wind checker constantly. When in doubt, make sure that you're circling extra wide or don't be afraid to back out and reapproach. Now treat the wind like a laser tripwire. You don't step across it unless you're ready to shoot, unless you know it's go time and you're ready. And even in that situation, if those elk pop up, a lot of times they're popping up and they're on the move. So don't expect them to pop up and turn and look at you and necessarily for you to get a shot that way. Pushing those wind boundaries, that's a pretty iffy game. If you'd like a whole video that discusses wind and thermals, I'll share it up here and link to it in the description. Now let's talk about sneaking with terrain. Because you don't just walk at elk, you use the land to sneak to them. Here's how. Ridges. Try to get above them when possible. If the wind permits, higher ground will always be an advantage with elk. Try to use drainages. Use them to drop elevation quickly without being seen. Try to use brush lines and timber edges so that you can move in the shadows. Stay dark and stay hidden. Try to avoid moving from the side of an elk who is at eye level. They've got their eyes aren't just focused in the front, right? They're on the side. Their peripheral vision is tremendous, and that has caught me many, many times. So make sure that when you're looking at those elk, even if they're bedded down and it seems like they're sleepy and relaxed, they can catch that movement from a lot further back than you think. Approach should almost always be from behind. Crawl when needed. There's no shame in belly crawling if it gets you 20 yards closer to where you need to be without being busted. I cannot tell you how many times my boys and I have belly crawled hundreds of yards on pronghorn, mule deer, and elk. Watch your skyline. Make sure that you don't get silhouetted. Stay low when cresting ridges. I had a buddy, we were hunting a really big bull many years ago, and we knew this bull was coming down the mountain, had to cross a little creek, and needed to come uphill towards us. And I really wanted to have my buddy set up at the bottom of this area where that bull was going to be coming down to us. But it was his hunt, and he decided to sit on the other side of that upslope right there, and he just didn't have anything behind him. I think he was maybe next to a tree, and sure enough, the bull came down like we thought he would. He down a little trail, and it came across the creek, and as soon as he set foot on that other side and was tipped upwards just a little bit, he saw the silhouette of my buddy, and he was gone, right? So make sure that you never give those elk a chance to silhouette you there. The terrain isn't just a backdrop. It's your stealth suit. You've got to use it to your advantage. No stalking discussion would be complete without discussing the mental game. Patience, pressure, and the close. This is where most stalks fall apart, and that has nothing to do with elk. It's all mental, and it's a lot of pressure. Let's say you closed with any 80 yards. Your heart's pounding. You can see antlers. Every instinct is screaming, go now. But a lot of times, that's when the discipline kicks in, or it needs to. Here are a few mental strategies for you. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. You don't need to close 30 yards in 30 seconds. You shouldn't. 1 foot, 1 breath. Move like you're underwater. Visualize the shot before you draw. This all comes into taking your time and patience. If you're going slow enough, if you're taking your time on that stalk, you should have time to visualize what that shot is going to look like. If they're not alert, wait. Let them stand. Let them move into an open lane if they do stand. Don't force it and take a risky shot. Even when everything seems perfect, stalks on elk oftentimes don't work out, or at least they haven't for me. If you blow it, learn. Break it down. Try to identify and recognize the error and journal it. Then put it behind you and move on to create the next opportunity. I've blown stalks, and within 10 minutes, I was right in the middle of another one. You've got to put it behind you and move on and focus on that next one. Every stalk that goes wrong teaches you how to make the next one go right, but only if you stay mentally in the game. Now let's break down a successful stalk as I walk you through a real stalk I pulled off a few seasons ago on a solo September hunt. I had spotted a group of cows with a branch antler bull. They were bedded just under a rim, about 10 a.m. The thermals were on the rise by then. The sun was hitting kind of sparsely, intermittently on that hillside. So I circled the east. I dropped elevation, and I side hilled in with the wind in my face until I was slightly above the herd. Now, that all sounds fine and good, but you have to understand it took me over an hour just to close the last 100 yards to where I had enough of shooting lane that I felt comfortable. I waited for the bull to stand and gave me a 42-yard shot, quartering away, and that tag was punched. There was nothing fancy to it, just reading the wind, using my terrain, and a whole lot of patience. So here's a few key takeaways from that example. Make sure you use your glass often. constantly checking for turned heads, not just on your target animal, but if there's multiple animals there, and you should always assume that there are, checking out multiple animals. Those could be multiple bulls or, within that herd dynamic as well, who may have decided to stand or stretch or graze. I've been busted by many times by cows who decided to stand up and graze mid-stalk. And a lot of times maybe they returned just right and I couldn't see them until it was too late. So don't rush. If the elk are bedded, what's the rush? I've said that to myself so many times. Rushing has cost me more kills than any other mistake on a wide variety of animals, including elk. When in doubt, slow down or wait. Trust this. Tried and true stalking advice, and you will avoid a lot of heartache and frustration I've experienced over the years. Stalking elk, it's an art. And like any art, it's a skill you build over time. Unfortunately for me, that skill has taken a lot of failed attempts. So this is just some information that may sound common sense to you, but I don't know how many times, the rushing example, told myself not to rush, slow down, and just, you want it so bad. And then you end up blowing it, where if you had taken a little bit more time, you would have spotted that standing cow, or you would have noticed the shift in wind, or you would have taken just a little bit different approach to have a better shooting lane. This isn't about luck. It's not about gear. It's about your awareness, your discipline to follow these tried and true skill sets, and just really mastering the basics. I had somebody criticize a video a while back saying my advice was too basic. It had been talked about over and over again. But I want you to realize that if I make a video about something, it's because that question is asked over and over and over again on hunting forums. And so these are things that are prevalent and that people need to know. And if I've made this mistake at least once or more than once, I want to share it. I'm not going to assume that anybody or everybody knows it. So try to get better at this closing game, the mental game, and I promise your success rate will go up faster than any other skill you could train. If this episode helped you, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment with your most painful or most successful stalk. I'd love to hear the story, and check out backboneunlimited.com for the backcountry gear and mindset that fuels your mission. Hunt hard, stalk wisely, never settle.